and the panel will ask questions, and they may aim at a specific candidate or at everybody. Then we'll take turns back and forth on how they're answered. And I will not ask questions until there's one last question, very easy at the end. So we will start, and Lou, why don't you start? And I'm going to ask the panelists, please, to use your mic. There's a technical reason why we have to do that now, to make sure everybody can hear the questions. All right.
Okay. You'll have a minute for your various responses. My machine will beep at 10 seconds left, and I'll start doing this when you're about to get abruptly cut off by our esteemed moderator.
My name is Lou Toomin. My name is Lou Toomin. I've been in the state of Nevada for 42 years. I'm a former state legislator in the class of '93. Was the highest rated freshman legislative assemblyman that year. Have not been able to get elected since. This is my 12th consecutive election. I was a member of the 562nd Air Force Band. I am now working for the Clark County Township, Las Vegas Township Constable's Office.
My name is Heryet. I'm a third-generation Nevadan. I grew up here. I'm a licensed real estate agent. I specialize in guardianship and probate transactions, which are very complicated and have a high level of ethics involved. This is my first run for office. I believe that the conservative movement going on right now is the perfect opportunity for some assembly people in Nevada to get elected. And my philosophy is very simple. It's minimum government, maximum personal freedom, and personal and economic. Thank you.
Well, my name is Ben Dallin. I'm a disabled veteran, top secret crypto clearance under NATO overseas for a number of years. I'm a licensed real estate agent and broker. I know how to balance the budget. I know how to solve the housing problem. I've done over $2 billion in housing, commercial and residential, 37 offices across the country. I've never held a public office before, but it comes to be pretty good to me. Before I kick off, I'd kind of like to see if we could get some more jobs in the city of Nevada and try to solve this housing problem without the aid of the federal government.
We'll start here then. Rob, your turn.
I'd like to know if you would support legislation that would give returning vets priority in hiring by state, county, and local government agencies.
Rob, who do you want to answer first? Lou.
The most important priority of the state, was that basically the question?
No.
Would you support legislation that requires state, county, and local governments to give priority to veterans, returning veterans, in their hiring?
Absolutely. I would support that to the fullest. I can't believe anybody wouldn't.
Thank you.
Okay, so that would be me. I'm not particularly comfortable with that. I think that the best candidate is who should be put into positions. I understand that veterans are facing particular obstacles when they return, but I really think best candidates should be chosen first.
I mean, federal policy is that veterans do get preference at this point, as long as they're equal candidates. So I don't think we're talking about an inferior candidate and a superior candidate for the same job. If they were equal in talent and skills, I would give the preference to the veteran.
Right. Well, there's law enforcement, obviously, agencies that could be utilizing troops coming back that are MPs and so forth, or other agencies. So that's kind of what I was referring to. But I agree. Thanks.
Okay, so this question is going to be for all three of you. And we'll start with Ben this time, since we started with Lou before. What three services do you three consider the most important to veterans, and what bill would you introduce that would specifically address the lack of those three services?
Probably being vigilant on the VA. I've been going to the VA for about 40 years since I received an injury in the service. And I've seen the service, in my opinion, get better and better every year at the VA. So I would be vigilant on the VA. I would be more helpful for the families of the dependents that are not here for any medical reasons they might have, because they're more often than not it's going to be the spouse, the woman, opposed to the man because of proportional enlistment. I think those would be the two major issues that I would probably address. Is monitor the current system, make sure it continuously gets better, and be cautious about the dependents because they need more help. And I think it's very difficult to analyze injuries that you cannot see. Psychological injuries appear to be longer lasting and more dangerous than a broken arm or a leg or something like that. So I think we may need longer, more accurate monitoring to determine if these people are threats to themselves precaution ahead of time to get the treatment necessary.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Megan?
So I have a degree in gerontology, and I did an internship at the Public Guardian's office. And one of the experiences I had there was obviously with the mental health services. And there aren't enough providers. They're not doing, there's not enough to get through those evaluations to determine what's going on. So I think some legislation to support the mental health services in that area is very important, and I know that's received a lot of attention. The other thing I've experienced in my real estate career is that there's not a lot of veterans housing, and so perhaps some kind of district overlay or something along those lines that could provide for some kind of veterans housing when they're moving out of their private homes, because that's something I've experienced with my guardians personally.
My problem is, number one, that the Veterans Affairs Office in the state should not be appointed by the governor, in my opinion. We've got to find another way to do that, because over the last 12 years that I'm familiar with, I've helped homeless veterans on the streets, and the mental problem is the biggest problem, along with drug addiction that I've found. We've had a terrible time getting veterans who have been swept down the street by the mayor's water hose, losing their IDs and getting medical assistance, and even getting their veterans' rights back. So I think it starts with the Veterans Affairs Office, and I would like to see that office rearranged so that the veterans can get some help that they sorely need.
Okay, thank all three of you very much.
We'd like to hope that we see the economy improving over the next few months, couple of years. Instead of what you would do, what is the single biggest thing the state of Nevada, either by a specific legislative repeal or any specific program, could do to get out of the way or otherwise stop impeding? So number one thing to stop doing. Let's start in the middle here.
Okay, sure. I think the governor has identified something like 647, something like that, statutes or obstacles to creating businesses. So, I mean, that's an excellent place to start. It's already been identified. It's, where we can go. I personally think that we need to kind of change the perception of Nevada, and I think that a broadening of the tax base, revenue neutral basis, would really help change the perception of Las Vegas being, or Nevada being, an unstable place to live. And because businesses want to be stable and they want to come and know what their taxes are going to be, they want to know that there's going to be funding for education and other services, and they want to know what that's going to be. So broad-based tax reform on a revenue neutral basis. And that comes up all the time. I know every session it comes up, but it's worth saying.
I'm sure you all know that 87% of this state is owned by the federal government. We need to find a way to break some of that land loose and bring other business to this state. That's the only way we're going to increase revenue here. We'll reach a point of no return with regards to gaming revenue and mining revenue, and both of those taxes need to be addressed. But I think the biggest thing we can do is bring other businesses and other industries to this state. We've got a climate and a lot of land here that where we could produce another Silicon Valley type industry, and we should be doing that. We should make exerted effort to bring more business in. That in itself would create more jobs and more revenue.
I think the best way I can answer your question with a question. We have undoubtedly the best marketing system in the world to deliver clients to our venues in the Strip and elsewhere. If we could take half of those resources and decide that we need jobs more than we need to be dependent on other people, have a one economy industry here. Very much like Houston. 30 years ago, Houston was all oil and gas. Now it's 30% oil and gas, and they're insulated from recessions. As we have mining and we have hospitality, we have very little else. So I think this reallocation of those assets and the priorities we already have, the people in position to take those jobs from somebody else and show them why they should be Nevada residents and Nevada employees.
On that note, what would each of you do in order to make Nevada more business friendly and to kind of prevent the Californication of this state?
Who first? Leo, who do you want to answer?
Here, Luke.
Luke, you first.
Sure, keep picking on the old guy. I think, again, the only way that we can create more jobs and more revenue in the state is to bring other businesses in here. And I frankly can't tell you how we can do that right now. You know as well as I do that the lieutenant governor's job is to bring more industry to the state of Nevada. Through the last 3 lieutenant governors that I'm aware of, they haven't brought diddly squat here. We need to make deals with the feds, we need to break some land loose, and we need to make deals with people to bring their businesses in here. We've got a tremendous tax structure in this state. As you know, we have no income tax, and we should be making overtures to other businesses and give them whatever they need to come here.
I personally believe that the tax structure in Nevada gives enough. There's no corporate income tax. Taxes are extremely low. We're lower than, on the corporate level, lower than all of our neighboring states that still are attracting businesses. I go back to the idea of the stability of the reputation of Nevada. Perhaps there is a place for a little bit of marketing there. We talked about the lieutenant governor going forward and saying, hey, but there is a perception issue. And that's really what I believe is the problem. And again, go back to some of those regulations that have been identified that can be repealed, and we really need to get away from this budget, this gap with, like, nickel and diming businesses on their business licenses and those types of things. I mean, that doesn't add to stability, and it doesn't create any things, long-term things.
I concur. These nuisance taxes for $200 here and $150, you're only an aggravation. What we really should be doing is trying to induce the people living in Silicon Valley in $900,000 houses, hiring engineers for $120,000, and show them what kind of education opportunities for their children would exist here if they came over and relocated, and what kind of a home could they have, what kind of a lifestyle could they have, on the same time of income or slightly less. So I don't think we have to give anything away. We have to show our comparative advantages of how we'd be superior for their lifestyle if they moved, relocated, took their jobs, took their intellectual property, and transferred from the state of California.
Have you guys voted every year, or every election in the last, I don't know, century too? I'm asking because I just got told by another candidate that he hasn't voted since he's been here, and he just decided this year he wanted to do something.
Are we including like primaries and everything?
I'm saying, voting, yeah. Well, it doesn't have to be primaries, but I'm just saying voted each election.
Yes, in the major elections, yes.
You have a lot of those.
Could you ask me the question again?
Sorry.
You deal with older
I was actually
people.
surprised that I'm going to have this question too. But have you been voting for the past several elections, I guess?
Have I voted?
Have you voted?
In the last
In
200
the last
elections.
200 elections? Everyone that you could?
You ran in the last 200 elections.
Yes.
200 years?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
Lou's been voting when the ballot was still on parchment.
All right, so what would you say would be the primary, like say when you guys go to vote this one, what would you say would be your primary thought of the candidate whom you would choose for whichever district, even district assemblyman, let's say that? State assemblyman.
I think that we kind of get the government we deserve, and if we don't become active and don't get involved, and I admit I have voted, but I have not been active in government. So now it's time for myself and my constituents and other parties that may have not been active, also to kind of take an active participant part in the election process and try to hold office. I don't think it's Democrat or it's Republican. It's just the American people are tired of the bickering. They want to have priorities, and they want those priorities from both parties, because if you win and prevail as a Republican and you can't get anything done for the Democrats, then what have you won? So I think you have to prioritize, and the country has to step back a little bit and say, well, we have divides, what we also have is priorities, and those priorities for a job for everyone that wants a job, and the education ability to get that job, to be trained for that job, to have peace and security that you're not going to be vandalized in your home or in your car, so on and so forth, and also that you're going to own a home, and the government's not going to change the plans and policies and so on and so forth. So I think running for office, you really have to look at what people want.
So for me, it's really about conservative values. It's about that minimum government, maximum personal freedom, allowing businesses to do what they do best, allowing families to do what they do best, allowing individuals to do what they do best, and just keeping the legislature out of it. And especially at the state level, because they meet so every other year and it's such a short amount of time, I don't really need things to be shoved down. I want legislators who are willing to say, like, maybe I'm not going to introduce a bill. You know, I'm perfectly comfortable with that.
I have a lot of priorities. I've been trying to champion ever since I was in the legislature. And the number one priority would be to try to make the legislative process a lot more transparent than it is today. In order to do that, there are at least three things we need to do for sure. And that would be to request a bank statement to accompany the campaign expenditure and a contribution report. It isn't now. It's signed under penalty of perjury and put into a filing cabinet. All they do is make sure it's signed and it comes in on time. But without a bank statement, they can't tell what anybody's doing with that money. I've been trying to get that on since 1993. Also, I'm sick and tired of the chairman having complete authority to kill bills. They don't need us, our representation on those committees, if we don't have a vote on every bill that comes through into that legislature. So I suggested many times that the committee itself should at least be asked to vote the bill up and down before the chairman kills it. Number three, I think the open meeting law needs to be followed by the legislature. The legislature enacted the open meeting law, but is the only body in the state that doesn't participate in it. We need to get rid of it so that those backroom meetings stop and so that they use the full complement of legislators to decide issues.
Thank you very much for attending. Do you support the broad-based tax law? And if so, can you be more specific on how you would implement it? And if not, why?
Is that?
You go first.
Yeah, I'm, at this point in time with the economy the way it is, I'm not really excited about any new taxes being imposed. I've been trying to go after gaming for many, many years, as well as the mining industry, and I think those are the two institutions that we really need to seek in a tax increase. I don't think that we should be raising taxes of business people in this day and age, anyway.
Well, I already mentioned it before. I do support a broad-based tax diversification only on a revenue-neutral basis. Our issue is not tax revenue. We're gonna have to make some cuts, especially when you look at state with your local taxes. We're right in the middle. We're not really a low-tax state, so that's really not the solution. There are a lot of ideas out there. I can speak specifically to one. There's kind of like a expansion of the sales tax is a suggestion out there. Not interested in the modified business tax. Whatever solution it is, it needs to be simple, it needs to be equitable. I'm not necessarily in favor of targeting gaming and mining because we've seen how that can create some volatility, and I think the point of the broad-based tax expansion would be stability. So I can't speak to a particular plan at this point, but I think it does need to happen.
It seems like every time we need revenue, we look towards gaming, we look towards mining, or some type of natural resource play in the state, pretty much mining. We talk about green energy. I'm not a big advocate of green energy, but we have 50,000 times the amount of geothermal energy in the state of Nevada as we have oil in the western states. So we should be redeploying those assets we have in the state and asking for the company to exploit those assets. The state should co-venture with the federal government on those spots, not put the money up with co-venture with them and make it a friendly state to get permits and to get a problem. So we have some clients that wait 3 and 4 years of permits. Perhaps that's a little bit long. I think they're building an airport right down the road that they've been working on for the last 18 years. So sometimes they may need to have government step back just a little bit and let commerce proceed. So I think the taxing problem is we can't talk about gross revenue, we have to talk about net revenue, so people want to make more money so they can be taxed. Exxon made $41 million last year. I think that they're employing 350,000 people. Thank you.
This will be the last question, and please make your answers very concise.
Actually, I have a question.
That was it. That was the last question.
We have time for one more.
I have a question.
Okay, this will be the last question, and again, make your answers very concise, please.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us this afternoon and letting us question you. We've been asking our candidates all day pretty much the same questions and been gauging your answers. And it seems like today's conversation has been mostly about taxes and spending and getting more revenue and getting more business in the state. I happen to be a state employee, and I see firsthand the colossal amount of wasteful spending that happens with the state. And when this subject is brought up to most state politicians, the first thing they do is roll their eyes and attack gaming or mining. I'd like to hear what each of you thinks about the wasteful spending that's happening in our state and how you would stop that. I know firsthand it's happening, so to say that it doesn't would be not a good answer. Thank you.
Tough questions for 30 seconds. Yeah, 20 seconds. Make it very quick.
Okay, I'll go.
Well, looking at, I don't know exactly what kind of waste you're talking about.
Start with the garbage man and go all the way up to the governor. It doesn't stop.
Well, I know one issue that comes up a lot that I've been really aware of since my dad just recently retired would be PERS and the PERS contributions, and I think there needs to be some examination of that system because the contribution is not there and the payout is.
I could
I'm not
say
going to
that
dodge
that's
your
not
question,
true
but I
firsthand.
sorely think that gaming does need to be taxed. We pay 6 3/4% now for about 8 years. It was only 6 1/4% before it went to 6 3/4. I would remind everybody in this room that Louisiana pays 50%.
We're not
So does
Louisiana, we're
Pennsylvania.
Nevada. Could you answer the question for Nevada,
Well, I don't care whether we're
please?
Nevada or Louisiana, but I think gaming needs to be taxed higher than they're being taxed. I think
So
that,
wasteful spending wouldn't be where you would start?
Benjamin? Basically, during my years of experience, every business forecasts what it costs to operate next year. Then it's about the money. We spend the money to look at what it cost last year. We should look at every employee in the state and find out if that can be done better or cheaper as an outsourced product because they all work for me. And I'm tired of paying for money that can be done better if somebody wants the job than some that may not want the job but has a job on a tenured basis.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. I realize some of you could have been out walking or in
Some of us did this
California
morning.
enjoying family.
Did you walk this morning?
Me?
No.
Oh.
Did I say this morning? Yeah.
Overall, do you think this panel treated you professionally and courteously?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, and go rack them up out there. Lou, head to California if you can.
Thank you for coming.
not for this weekend.